So hello everyone, in this video we'll be understanding practically what are functions. So let's do this. Let me just remove the previous code. Let's say I have some code that I want to repeat, which is the console log of this. Let's say I have this hello world console log. So I want to repeat this, or it can be any big code as well. So that I can do easily with this function. So you have to use function when you're creating a block of code and when you're working on some like big task. Or let's say I have a task, for example, somebody I want to greet the people, like I want to greet the people. So how can I greet it? So I can greet it just like that, right? So I can greet it in the console log. Good morning, let's say. So that's very simple, right? But if we had multiple lines of codes and we want to create multiple times, or let's say you want to use multiple block of code, at that time what we'll be doing, we'll be just copy pasting the same thing again. But we don't want that, right? We want to stop the repetition of code. That's why we'll be using everything in a function. So creating a function is very simple. You just have to specify a function keyword at the start, and then you have to actually name the function. So for example, greet me. I can create this function. Inside that I can specify anything that I want to execute multiple times. So I can greet, let's say, good morning. Let's say I have this thing. Now if you go to the browser, nothing will be there. You can see nothing is there. Why is that? Because we haven't called this function. A function will be there until we called it. So we have to call it like this. We just have to specify the name of the function and these parentheses. After that, you can specify semicolon, obviously. Now you can see the code is executed as good morning. So it can be any large code as well as any small code as well. Let's say if I want to greet multiple times, so I can call one more time the greet me function. So it depends how many times you call it. You can see 3 times we have called this function. So this is the way. Similarly, you can do any number of thing in here. You can write any counting. Let's say you want to write some counting. Let's say you want to write a for loop. That's count from starting and like that you can do easily. Let's say I want to start the counting from and I want to end it at the 10 or less than equal to 10. Let me just remove this. Here I can increase that and then I can copy this one in here. Instead of greet me, I can write count me, let's say count me, and copy paste the same thing. Now in here I can write the I here. So this way I can repeat this for loop multiple times, like 3 times I can count the same counting here. You can see uh, we have counted the numbers 3 times. So 1 to 10, again 1 to 10, and again 1 to 10. So we have counted 3 times. Similarly, I can count how many times I call this function. So it's up to me. So this way I wanted to tell you that you can call any number of times any function and you can write any number of code here. You can write if statements, you can write another functions, or you can create for loops or loops normally. You can do anything in here. So basically this was the way. Now let's say if I want to create pass some parameters to this function. So how can I do this? So it is very simple. You can just write here. Let's say I want to get the counting number. So I want to count the numbers uh, till the last, like I want to get the number from this number is 10, right? So it is counting from 1 to 10. So I want the starting number and the ending number or the last number. So basically I want that. So let's say I want to specify end here and num. So where I have to stop the counting. So I can specify here. Let's say you have to count from 1 and you have to specify end num till end num. So I can specify end num here, end num as a number. Let's say I can specify I want to count from till 5. I want to count for till 3, and I want to count till 10. So this way, if I see the console now, you can see the first counting from 1 to 5, the second counting from 1 to 3, because we are passing some variable, we are passing some parameters. So this variable, it is used as a placeholder in our function. So we can use it like this. But let's say if I call a function that doesn't have any uh, parameters passed. So if I don't want to pass anything, so what will happen? You can see nothing happens. Why is that? Because we are not specifying any default value to parameters. So if I specify default value to, let's say, 2 here, that will be the default value. For the last case, it will count from 1 to 2 because we haven't passed any number. So that will be, this number will be used here as a end num. You can see 1 to 2. Similarly, you can pass multiple parameters here. So this was one parameter. You can specify start num or starting number as well. Let's say I want to count from 1 to 5. I want to count from 2 to 3. I want to count from 5 to 10. I can also set it to 1, let's say. And now in here, I can specify the starting number. So initially it will not be 1, but the starting number. If I do that, now you can see it is starting from the numbers we have specified as a start. Now you can see it is counting. So this way you can also control the counting of the numbers. So this is the thing that you have to remember. We can pass any number of parameters here, and we can also set the default values to the parameters. Instead of just console logging the numbers, we can also return the numbers. So let me just change this function to something else. We can also create a function. Let's say we can create a sum function. And also there is another way of creating a function, that is function expression, that will be creating. Let's say we have a function called get sum that we did in the last slide, right? This is the way we can use this arrow function as well. So this kind of function is called arrow function, and it is a function expression, but in here we can use this arrow function, which is present in ES6 version of JavaScript. And we can also use anonymous function by specifying function keyword and the parentheses here. So this is an anonymous function. We also had the arrow function. In here I can just create a variable, let's say total, and I can return some number. I can specify parameters, let's say num1 and num2, and I can return both of them by just adding to the total variable, adding both of them and assigning it to total variable, and we can return that number easily. So we can return it. So this return keyword actually will not do anything. Instead, it will just return the value of the total variable. So whatever it has, it will return to the function or wherever the function is called. So I can directly do it, and like let's say if I pass some number, let's do 5. So you can see nothing will be console logged. Nothing is console log because we haven't added any console log here. We are just returning this total number. If you want to like console log it, so you can directly add it or call this function in a console log, or you can store the value returned by this function in a variable. That's up to you. Now we'll be seeing that console. Now you can see 7 is there. Why is that? Because 7 is the sum. we specify the number. We can also store this as a separate variable, return sum, let's say, and I can use this variable to console log or in other variables or in any operation I want. I can use it. Now if I just console log this, if I just console log this return sum variable, so it will be the return value which we got from this get sum function. You can see it is 7 now. We can change that to something else, the numbers or the parameters, that's up to us. And in here you can specify it like specifying const, because we don't want to change the name, that's why I specified const here. You can use var or let anything here, so that will be working as well. So you don't have to worry about that why did I use this const, because I'll not be assigning any new value to this get some variable. So this way we have this get some function. Now there is one problem here that I cannot call this function before declaring it. So when I'm using it as a function expression, so I cannot call this thing here, or I cannot call this like this. If I do this, you can see can't access lexical declaration get some before initialization, because we are initializing after after calling. So that's why in this case it doesn't work, because it is not the case. When we specify function expression, we cannot call the function before it is initialized. So if you want to call the function before it is initialized, so you'll be using function declaration instead of function expression. So this is function expression. If I use it like a normal function, so it will be like a function declaration. So I can now get the result easily. I can see we got the result 7. So this is the difference basically. So I hope you got something about the functions. Uh, this is finished. Thank you for watching. Let's meet in the another one.